The main argument of Western rhetoric is a widespread notion of exporting democracy, one of the main justifications for American invasions of other countries. And he is still doing his job, convincing people of the usefulness of such campaigns, despite how America's failure to export democracy to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Egypt has caused the plumage of the hoax to fade. Everyone who gets involved in the US game of exporting democracy will have much more problems. Russian representatives promise the decision to admit Sweden and Finland to NATO, according to Andrei Klimov, head of the upper house of Parliament's Commission for Protection of State Sovereignty, will not improve their relations with Moscow. The senator recalled that Sweden and Finland had received some benefits from their neutrality, but now, with the increase in military infrastructure on their territory, they will gain problems for themselves, Klimov added. The speed at which they turn into a target should worry them. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the accession of Sweden and Finland to the alliance will be the fastest in history, and then, of course, there will be another wave of proposals on how the alliance can defeat Russia. Defeating and dismembering are the most important tasks, because this is what the true master of the European Union, the United States of America, wants. America is used to fighting with other people's hands. It draws Western Europe into an open conflict with Russia, increases support for Ukraine, and tries to provoke Russia into dangerous steps with the whole world. It was for these reasons that Lithuania was recommended to block transit to the Kaliningrad region. The United States, realizing that Ukraine will end soon, is going to fight until the other last representatives of different nations, hoping to weaken Russia with a long war that enriches the US government and military. And to continue the war, it is necessary to do what Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov said, to call Russia a threat to the alliance, which has nothing to do with reality. The alliance is a threat to Russia. During the Cold War, the West decided that Russia was an opponent of the North Atlantic peace. The operation to redo borders and destroy nation-states in Balkans was seen as a testing ground for the future dismemberment of Russia and the destruction of its statehood. But even before that, there were large-scale plans and projects to tear Russia to pieces. Also, researchers doubt the reliability of some of them, in particular, the existence of the Dallas Plan, the Dallas Doctrine. The authorship of the plan is attributed to the American diplomat and intelligence officer, Director of Central Intelligence, Alan Walsh Dulles. Nikolai Slobin, a political scientist and specialist in Russian-American relations, believes that neither A.W. Dulles nor any other American official or potential could have written anything like this, since the text of the doctrine completely contradicts the fundamentals of American policy towards the USSR at that time. The policy of opposition to the USSR was strictly the opposite, to try to awaken national consciousness, especially among national minorities. The indication in the text was A.W. Dulles was a director of the CIA at the time is absolutely meaningless, since the CIA was created 2 years later. A.W. Dallas became director of the CIA in 1953 and did not create any doctrines. Zlobin notes that all documents of the time has long been declassified, but no one has found such a document because it doesn't exist, despite all the doubts about the existence of the Dallas Plan. It is nevertheless generally believed that Western intelligence agencies developed the Harvard Project in the 1970s, which envisated the destruction of the USSR within 15 years. And this plan not only didn't provoke opposition from the government of the USSR, but also found supporters among the population. His ideological basis was based on a simple attitude that there would soon be no resources left on Earth, and these resources should be in the hands of the golden billion. Environmental scientists in the United States have estimated that at the beginning of the 21st century, humanity will face a severe shortage of raw materials and energy resources. Naturally, it was necessary to save only the American nation, and in the most familiar way for America, by reducing the population of other states. There were two main tasks to be solved. First, take control of resources into their own hands. Second, limit the birth rate of the third world population. The Harvard Project was supposed to serve the first task. According to him, first of all, it was necessary to appropriate the resources of the sixth part of the land. Thus, both the raw material problem and the geopolitical problem of eliminating a possible rival were solved. But the second problem involved a multi-step strategy. According to the logic of the Malthusians, in order to reduce the number of people, the institution of the family should be destroyed. And to do this, discredit all institutions that support family values, a basis of consciousness of the Abrahamic religions, the dominant faiths on earth. Therefore, it is necessary to minimize the influence of religious institutions of any denomination. The media should strengthen the promotion of liberal values that will replace traditional values. There are other projects aimed at rocking the world, in particular, programs so-called democratization, orange revolutions, regime change, humanitarian programs from Soros committees, etc. According to the Harvard Project, after the collapse, the territories of the USSR were distributed to those who were worthy. Siberia was ceded to the United States. The northwest of the country is towards Germany, the south and the Volga region towards Turkey. The Far East is turned to Japan to establish direct control of the raw materials of Siberia and the Far East. The Harvard Project consisted of those stages: perestroika, reform, completion. The last stage was called the Houston Project and was a detailed study of the completion stage. There was no longer any talk of dismemberment of the USSR, but rather the division of Russia into small states, helpless before Western rule. And the plan to demoralize the masses is indeed being implemented right now. But in the West, free Americans are playing football with the Bible. Ukrainian troops are bombing churches and separating from the Moscow Patriarchate. The Catholic Church is legalizing same-sex marriage. And who knows if the plans of the West will end with the division of Europe itself and even the United States into separate, very small countries.